So Trump, during 2015 and 2016, he had energy advisors that were Russian energy experts. So Trump wanted to get Exxon into the Russian Arctic. That was his whole reason for being lobbied. In other words, when Carl Icahn bought out the debt obligation to the Taj Mahal casino, it got Trump off of debt obligations for the bankruptcy for that casino. And so the only reason Carl Icahn did it was to profiteer, use Trump to corporate invert money, and open up the pipelines, that Alaskan pipeline, the Keystone pipeline for Exxon to flood energy into Carl Icahn gas refinery businesses. But it was Exxon that used Trump to get back into the Russian Arctic. So around 2015, 2016, with Cardo Page and uh, Papalopoulos, there were two energy experts, Russian energy experts, and Trump wanted to get a Moscow tower out of it. You know, Trump is always out is to expand his real estate portfolios. So, like the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia have given Jared a portfolio of $2 billion, $2 billion, a portfolio. And in my prior tutorial videos, I said I misspoke because I was speaking too quick and I mispronounced the amount that was awarded to Jared to manage. It was $2 billion portfolio that the Crown Prince gave Jared, and incrementally out of that portfolio management, Jared is receiving like payments of 25 million incremental payments, and so Trump is laundering that into his real estate because Trump is fixing. He's like a Rockefeller's father. He's out to enrich himself. When he lies to his base and say that there was never no Russian collusion, that's basically the biggest injustice he ever did to his base. Because the truth, beyond the preponderance of a doubt, anybody could see what he was doing behind the scenes. Anybody could see that Exxon was using Trump as a presidential vessel to bridge their company right back into the Russian Arctic under the Trump administration. So that's why Rex Tillerson stepped down as the CEO of Exxon to do the bidding of the board members as state secretary. So Rex Tillerson became state secretary under Trump. And it was the board members of Exxon through Rex Tillerson that were using Trump to raise sanctions on Russia, because Russia annexed Crimea with the first invasion under the Biden administration. When Putin annexed Crimea, Obama imposed sanctions, economical sanctions, that slowed down and prevented Exxon doing business in the Russian Arctic. So that's why they used Trump in 2015 to raise sanctions, economical sanctions, that would allow Exxon to start doing business again in the Russian Arctic. And so that's why they used Trump as a puppet. To Exxon did to get their way in the Russian Arctic with Trump as their puppet, as their snake oil con artist, puppet president. So between Rex Tillerson and Carl Icahn, they were enriching themselves in their fossil fuel industries, using Trump to corporate invert money, tax evaded money from tax havens, or stock shares, or security bonds, or treasury bills of these companies, as far as bringing money from abroad back into their American corporations. So they use Trump for tax evasion, to corporate invert money, tax evaded money back into their stock shares, that they can invest back in strengthening up their stock shares in Wall Street. So it was Carl Icahn that was insinuating to have Trump slash regulations that impeded his gas refinery businesses and the pipelines because under the Obama administration, the Alaskan pipeline and the Keystone pipeline was held up. So Carl Icahn was pissed off that there were so many regulations that he was not allowed to make windfall profits in his gas refinery businesses. So that's why Carl Icahn uh, got behind Trump as his White House economical advisor. But to ingratiate himself, Carl Icahn, he did a quick a pay-for-play scheme, a quid pro quo. So Carl Icahn bought out the Taj Mahal uh, to get Trump out of debt obligations to the bankruptcy to that casino. So Trump was off the hook for the Taj Mahal. He didn't have to come out of his pockets too much for the debt obligations to that bankrupt casino. So Carl Icahn did that just to ingratiate himself with Trump, and it worked because it was Carl Icahn that put in Rex Tillerson and Exxon uh, colluding with Carl Icahn gas refinery businesses to make windfall profits. But so Trump was always their snake oil con artist, if you will. And when Trump was obstruction, firing Comey, the deputy FBI director that took over after Comey, firing Clapper, uh, Brenner, firing the Justice Department, Attorney Generals, appointing Whitaker, Rosenstein, and then Bill Barr. They obstructed. Trump was appointing people to obstruct the FBI ability to connect the dots in the Russian Arctic. And as far as Robert Mueller, he was beginning just to scratch the surface of what Trump was doing into Russia. As far as the Trump Tower meeting to get WikiLeaks stolen espionage emails of Hillary Clinton, Trump's Moscow Tower that Trump wanted to give Putin a free penthouse in that Moscow Tower. And Trump was doing this behind the scenes in 2015. He was sending over there Carter Page. He was sending Papadopoulos to advise Trump on how to get Exxon back into the Russian Arctic. And so Trump was vetting out the Justice Department to hide the true corruption of his political lobbyist interests of his officials, which was Carl Icahn and Rex Tillerson and the Exxon board members. And so he was obstructing. Mueller said it was the biggest obstructionist case, in his opinion, in American history. And you got to know by now, Trump obstructs every lawsuit that comes his way. He used the excuse, it's a witch hunt, just to get his supporters into backing him and donating campaign funds, from blue collar people that are struggling to pay their bills. Trump lies to them and gets them to believe his lies, his supporters. And he raised $150 million for Save America PAC. He raised $150 million, and 40 million of those $150 million he used to pay for his Stormy Daniels case, for his rape case, for his tax evasion case in New York, for his January 6th case. He uses his campaign. He dupes. Like Rockefeller's father was a con artist. He was somebody that swindled people. That's what Trump does to his base, living off of them, living off the poorest of blue collar workers that are registered Republicans. He lives off of the gullibility of them when he goes to his rallies and lies straight to their face. So anyway, let's go back to connecting the dots in the Russian Arctic. So Trump, and Farage, the Tory leader in Britain, I came to find out that BP was in there along with Exxon in the Russian Arctic. So Trump was trying to undermine Angela Merkel. The reason he was trying to tariff Germany It wasn't for their Mercedes and their BMWs. It wasn't for their luxury vehicles. It was because he was trying to undermine Angela Merkel and the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. Because Britain has an insecurity complex when it comes to Germany because of World War One and World War Two. Before World War One, Germany was an economical powerhouse, and so between that war and reparations after World War One on Germany, Britain never, because after the 2008 collapse, Britain, the economy collapsed with the real estate bubble markets in 2008, the banking crisis. So that's what initiated more or less the Brexit movement. Because Germany, the politicians of Germany, doesn't like to be inferior when it comes to the European Union. They don't like to take orders economically from Germany because of the two world wars. There's always been a economical strife between Britain and Germany always comes out being more economically prosperous than Britain in these economical struggles. With the European Union, Britain doesn't like to play second fiddle to Germany's economy. So Farage was behind the Brexit movement with Trump. And I wonder, was it Farage and Trump? Because in 2015, in the campaigns, Steve Bannon was insisting for the Eurozone to dissolve itself because of Farage and the Brexit movement. So they were insinuating. Even Trump said that was a good idea if the European dissolved the Eurozone currencies, and that's why, to me, Trump was tariffing France and Germany because of it, because he was trying to undermine. First of all, the Paris Accords was a thorn in Trump's ass. The Paris Accords, it was a thorn on Trump's ass. That's why Trump didn't get along with President Macron. And Angela Merkel, he was just, so Trump lied. He said, okay, I'm tariffing France because of cheese and wines, their cheese and wine industries. I'm taxing them. That was a lie. It was because of the Paris Accords. And when he was tariffing Germany, it wasn't for their Mercedes-Benz and their luxury cars. It was because of Nord Stream 2 and Nord Stream 1. Trump, with Exxon, wanted to pump Russian Arctic energy in through the Ukrainian pipelines. And they wanted to, along with BP, control the flow of Arctic Russian energy into Western Europe. So BP wanted to be with Exxon controlling the energy supply of Western Europe. They didn't want Germany to control it. As far as the scheming behind the scenes between Trump and Farage, I think Farage has that interest and lobbyist interest with BP. So they wanted between Trump administration, they bridge Exxon and BP in the Russian Arctic, and they wanted to circumvent Germany. They didn't want Germany to have the right to flood Western Europe with energy. So Trump found an excuse. He made up an excuse saying it was for the German car industry that he tariffed Germany, but it was because of Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. They were trying to circumvent. Exxon was trying to circumvent Germany and subvert them, and to get Exxon to flood energy into Western Europe along with BP. So they also wanted to use Exxon. They wanted to have a pipeline that ran through Russia, the Turkmenistan pipeline that had to cross Afghanistan. So that's why Trump freed Abdul, the Taliban leader, and 5,000 of his close lieutenants, and gave them rule all over Afghanistan, and undermined the American coalition government to do it. Because Trump only had a couple more months in office. Before his term was over, he only had a couple more months in office. So he freed Abdul because he made, with behind the scenes, they made Abdul promise them that they will not tamper with that pipeline. They won't terrorize it. They won't impede it. And so Exxon wanted to control that pipeline to flood Russian joint venture Exxon and Russian energy through that pipeline that ran through Tajikistan into Afghanistan that would have eventually been routed to India. And also routed towards China. So Exxon got a little bit too greedy for their own good. And you got to understand, Putin didn't care about giving half of Russia's energy to Exxon. In other words, they never intended to allow Exxon to profiteer. They only tripped them up in the Arctic to trip up American foreign policy and domestic policy. Putin did. As a savvy saboteur, KGB officer that he is, he invited, under the Trump administration, Exxon to get back into the Russian Arctic just to compromise Trump, just to get him compromised. And so out of that, because you got to understand, you think Putin with OPEC plus one, do you think Putin with OPEC plus one wants to give Exxon 50% of Russian export energies to prop up that much and make America that much richer when it comes to the world reserve petrodollar? Putin never intended to make America's currency that much stronger when it comes to the world reserve petrodollar currencies. Putin understands that America was controlling the markets of the gasoline supplies throughout the world being bought in American dollars. You think Putin wanted to give America that much power to their currency? No. But he invited Exxon back into the Russian Arctic underneath the Trump administration to trip up and compromise Trump. That's why he did it. He did it because he wanted to soften up Ukraine for the second invasion. He did it because he knew Trump was a recluse in American affairs and international affairs. Can you imagine in 2015, 2016, Farage and Trump saying, hey, the Eurozone should dissolve their currencies. They should dissolve the Eurozone. And I'm a tariff France. I'm a tariff France for their cheese and wine. That's what Trump was saying in 2015, 2016. I'm a tariff Germany for their automobile industries. I'm a tariff Canada for their dairy industries. I'm a tariff, and then they got to pay up because they're raping us. They got to pay up. So Trump was extorting our European allies for tribute in forms of tariffs. He said about Japan and South Korea, he said, if they don't pay up, I will abandon them in time of nuclear war. In times of nuclear war, I would abandon them if they don't pay up. He started extorting Saudi Arabia by charging them inflated prices for American weapons. So Trump was extorting. He tariffed Mexico too. So Trump created a tariff war that brought a global recession just because he was a leprechaun troll trolling sovereign nations' coffers for tribute to himself. So Putin recognized that about Trump in 2015, and he took advantage of the opportunity and compromised it and invited Exxon to get back into the Russian Arctic under the Trump administration to trip up America's domestic affairs and foreign affairs. Trump was the Achilles heel that Putin took advantage of. To this day, Putin takes advantage of it. So, Putin never had intended to give Russian energy to American greenback Exxon. Because Putin already realized as OPEC plus one that America was floating the world's gasoline supply by the petrodollar. So he never wanted to make America that much powerful. You think he wanted to give half of Russian energy to America for America to prop up their military more stronger with the petrodollar? You think he wanted to give half of Russia's energy to prop up the greenback petrodollar to control the flow of gasoline throughout the world? To make America that much richer? To make America politics that much powerful? To make America military that much stronger? No, Putin never intended that. He only invited Exxon back into the Russian Arctic under the Trump administration to trip up and compromise Trump. And it worked. Because to this day, Trump is scared of his own shadow in the Russian Arctic. Trump doesn't want to cross Putin, not in the slightest way, because he knows that his own supporters will devour him. Trump does know that if the truth come out about the Russian Arctic, that his own supporters would devour him. So, to this day, Trump says there was no collusion. And the only reason he says that is because the FBI and the Justice Department, they didn't want to implicate him because they will panic America's energy markets and Wall Street, and it will undermine the petrodollar. So the Democrats were scared to speak the truth behind the Russian investigation. The Democratic leaders, the Democratic Party, and the committee members of investigating the Russian collusion, they were all scared to say the truth. That it was all corruption, oil lobbyist interests of Trump's administrators in the Russian Arctic with their special lobbyist interests of Exxon. They were too afraid to allow the media to have a rampant. They were too afraid to speak truth to words. They didn't want the media to panic the markets, the energy markets, and to undermine America's reserve status as the petrodollar, so floating the world's supply of gasoline, if you will. So that's what they wanted. That's what they wanted to do. Is turn a blind eye to it. The Democratic Party leaders turn a blind eye to Trump in the Russian Arctic. And that's to this day what pisses me off. That's why Chile, Brazil, and India went to Saudi Arabia and started buying energy with their own currencies. That's why they started buying energy from Saudi Arabia and the OPEC members with their own currencies. It's because they're decoupling from America's greedmonger that is Trump. Remember, Trump was saying that the world is raping us. The world is taking advantage of us. The world is laughing at our stupid leaders. I'm going to tariff the world into submission. Europe, you're raping us. You're taking advantage of us. You should dissolve your Eurozone currency. I'm a tariff France. I'm a tariff Germany. I'm a tariff Japan. I'm a tariff South Korea. I'm a tariff Canada. I never seen a leprechaun troll as chief of commander, trolling our allies for tribute, trolling their sovereign coffers of nations, sovereign coffers for tribute to his greed mongering. You know what Trump was saying 2015, 2016? I'm going to take. He was saying this at his rallies. I'm going to take, meaning in forms of tariffing our allies and robbing them. I'm going to take. I'm going to take so much they're going to get tired of me, meaning his supporters. But I'm going to keep on taking until I make America great again. America has enslaved the world to the supply of gasoline that was floated with America's currency. And that's why when they were investigating the Russian collusion, the Democratic Party was just as complicit to look the other way. And so what Trump says with impunity and immunity, he says there was no Russian collusion. The Democratic Party looks the other way, knowing that Trump is lying through his mouth. But they're too afraid, the Democrats, to panic the petrodollar or turn the Wall Street markets of American energy company upside down through Wall Street panicking. So for that reason, they gave this monopoly player that we call Trump a get out of jail free card and acted like there was no Russian collusion. To this day, the Democratic Party is complicit and looking the other way, while Trump rubs it into their faces and say, there's never been a Russian collusion. It's a witch hunt, waving the newspaper of claiming that he was vindicated, that there was no Russian collusion. When in reality, the CIA and the FBI knows exactly the truth and nothing but the truth. But in corruption of bureaucracy runs amok when it comes to greed, as far as Capitol Hill interests, the agency stays quiet. So to bring it back to paint the clear picture of what was going on in the Russian Arctic, Putin bombarded in 2015 the internet with bots to rile up the Trump base supporters. And Putin already know that Exxon was using Trump to get back into the Russian Arctic. So Putin used that to his advantage and to use Trump as America's Achilles heel. Putin was watching it, and their intel agencies, the Russian intel agencies, were watching Trump rallies. Putin know that Trump was a recipe for destruction for America. Putin knew exactly that Trump was America's Achilles heel. And so when Trump was insinuating with Steve Bannon in 2015, 2016, dissolve the Eurozone. They should dissolve themselves. Sorry for that interruption. But Trump with Steve Bannon was trying to undermine the Eurozone. And so Trump, I keep on getting incoming calls, I apologize. So Putin knew what he was going to use Trump. Damn it! Hello, Moto. I apologize. I got interrupted by incoming calls. So Putin knew that Trump was a recipe for destruction, not only for foreign affairs for America, but for domestic affairs. To this day, Putin has Trump compromised because Trump knows that he was backroom dealing for the interests of Exxon in the Russian Arctic, while he was telling the Justice Department and the American people and his supporters that he had no business pending in Russia, that he had no interest or collusion in Russia. But in reality, they were backroom dealing to get into the Russian Arctic. And so Putin knew that Trump was tariffing not only China, but Putin knew that Trump was a recipe for destruction for the European members. Putin knew that Trump was a self-defeatist for the European Union. And what Putin, if you notice, Trump says for 2024, he's running for 2024, he says, we gave enough money to anyway, I don't want to impress his voice, but because it's a doofus, a doofus mentality that he has, but he said that he paid enough, that we paid enough to Zelensky and military support that the European Union is supposed to pay their own shares, that he's going to stop sending financial or military assistance to Zelensky. So Putin pays attention to what Trump is saying, and Trump is compromised. It's like a guillotine. Putin has a guillotine over Trump's neck, and Trump knows that Putin has all the backroom deals of Exxon and Russian Arctic, while Rex Tillerson was state secretary under the Trump administration. And so it implicates Trump in the collusion with Russia. And Putin knows that. And Trump knows that if the truth come out, that his supporters will devour him and tear him from limb to smithereens. So Trump is always scared of Putin for that reason. and he's already a putz in Putin's hands. Can you imagine this Trump? Because he wanted to bridge the deal of that pipeline running through Tajikistan that ran through Afghanistan into India. He only had a couple more months in his administration. So he freed Abdul, the leader of the Taliban. He sent Pompeo, as state secretary, he sent Pompeo to free Abdul and to promise him rule of Afghanistan. And to remove the sitting, at that time, the sitting government that was coalitioned with America interests. Trump sent Pompeo to undermine that joint coalition government of Afghan that took the American government 20 years to prop up, and it took the military 20 years to prop up that coalition government in Afghanistan. And Trump gave it all away to Abdul for the love of getting that deal bridged, meaning for Exxon controlling that pipeline, and to get Exxon reassurance that the Taliban would not tamper with that pipeline, because they wanted to flow. Exxon thought that they was going to flow Russian energy to India and China with that pipeline. So that's why Trump laid down with Abdul, the leader of the Taliban, and basically pissed in the legacy of 9/11. He basically betrayed the victims of 9/11 just for the love of profiteering. Like a Rockefeller's father. You remember Rockefeller's father used to gag his own son. So his son never got along with his father because he knew that his father was a swindler. So Trump reminded me of a snake oil, because Rockefeller's father always peddled remedies, snake oil medicines. And everywhere he went, he was known for being a con artist. So that's what Trump reminds me of, Rockefeller's father. When the windmills are not spinning, because they're killing bald eagles. Oh, you gotta flush the toilets not only once, but 10 times. Oh, we should bring the incandescent light bulb back. Who needs green energies? It's all about snake oil remedies. And Trump is dim-witted. He doesn't know how to perceive Putin. But Putin already perceived him a long time ago. And now Trump is his chump. Not Trump, chump to Putin. Trump is Putin's chump. So, to this day, Trump brags, it was never no Russian collusion, it was a witch hunt. In other words, whatever you say bounces off of me because I'm made out of rubber and y'all made out of glue. The media is so dishonest. Turn the cameras. He tries to hide behind a witch hunt. And he always desecrates the media just to cover up his mischievous behaviors. And I blame the Democrat Party for looking the other way. So, because of Trump and his greed mongering with his global tariff wars, tariffing our allies, tariffing other nations, it showed the world that America is an abomination of greed, and Trump is the god of greed. He always thinks himself as the chosen one. Well, he's the abomination of greed. Tariffing China, Mexico, Canada, dissolving the Eurozone, just because the only reason he wanted to dissolve the Eurozone, because Exxon wanted to pump Russian energy in through the Ukrainian pipelines, not in through Nord Stream 1 or Nord Stream 2. So Trump, in his dim-witted concepts, he wanted to undermine Angela Merkel in Germany. And he used lies like, I'm tariffing you because of Mercedes, your car productions. Oh, France because of your cheese and wines. No, it was because of his fossil fuel interest. He didn't get along with the president of France because of Paris Accords that stood in his way. That stood in Trump's way as far as American policy. He didn't want to get along with Angela He kept on saying, Angela, Angela. He said, I'm the one that stopped Nord Stream 2 and Nord Stream 1. That's what he's saying lately in the 2024 rallies. I'm the one that stopped Nord Stream 2 and Nord Stream 1 because he wanted to flood Russian energy into the Ukrainian pipelines. And when Lazinski didn't find dirt on Biden and his son, he stopped sending them, he blackmailed them to not send them military aid or threatened not to flow energy through that pipeline. And he fired the American ambassador with Giuliani. And with Giuliani went over there with his two Ukrainian fossil fuel partners. So at the end of the day, the truth will come out. It will come out eventually. Inertia catches up to you. So at the end of the day, what you plant, what you sow shows who you reap. And his endeavors, his actions, he will reap. It will come back to haunt him. So at the end of the day, the world recognizes that America is an abomination of greed. Trump said, the world is raping us. The world is taking advantage of us. Now it's time for me to rape the world. And I'm going to keep on taking. And I'm going to tariff the world until I make America great again. Knowing that America already enslaved the world to gasoline. America with the petrodollar make the world, entire nations throughout the world, an American economical colony through the greenback petrodollar. And then to top it off, the Republicans put Trump in office, the abomination of greed, that he thinks that somehow the world is taking advantage of us. The world is raping us. The world is robbing us blind. When in reality, it's the other way around. America raped the world. America colonized the world by floating the supply of gasoline throughout the world in American currency. And on top of that, you have a president like Trump trolling the world, extorting the world for tribute to his grandeur, of his self-worth, tariffing the world with global tariffs. Because he doesn't know the limit to greed. So that's why China, Brazil, and India started buying oil from Saudi Arabia with their own currencies. Because they realize that the gig is up in America and it's time we cut this petrodollar short. Thanks to Trump and thanks to his greed mongering.